Can I just say that when I start these videos and I hit record, I always feel like my hair looks better. And then I go back and I watch it and I'm like, what just happened? I looked so much better when I was just looking at myself and not being recorded. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk about trip planning, both the applications I use and the process. Hopefully that's going to be useful to you, but if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Jennifer Preston. My husband Michael and I are the original Happier Camper OGs, number 44, HC1, from 2016. Today we have an HCT, and this channel is really all about helping people understand the rigs themselves, why you may or may not want to buy one, as well as just providing tips and tricks for thinking about becoming an early owner of a camper. It doesn't matter what your brand is, because it can feel a little intimidating. And we know, because when we bought our camper in 2016, we had never camped before. Yeah, we did that. So make sure you like and subscribe. I'm going to flip over to my laptop so that I can walk you through the applications and the process. And then I'm going to wrap up the video with some additional tips and tricks. So stay on. Let's go. Okay, let's get started. There's only two applications that you need to use in order to trip plan the way that I do. And that is your browser. I use Safari, and a notes app. I use Apple Notes. And so over here you can see I've got, I'll just call this, well, let's go from New Orleans to Edmonton, Canada. And then I would list, whatever my dates were. I'm assuming this is a date-constrained trip. Maybe this is, again, making it up, June 1, June 2, etc. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to collect what my destination is. And when I say duration, I mean how long it takes me to get there, not how long I'm going to stay. The possible place to stay, and when I've got everything done, I'll go back and fill in daytime and nighttime temperatures. That helps me do my planning. I'll explain a little more later. Now, I'm going to go from New Orleans to Edmonton, Canada. Unfortunately, Roadtrippers has implemented this tool called Autopilot. It is relentless in trying to make me use their AI to do my trip planning. And it's going to give me another prompt. I want to do it myself. Here we go. So I'm starting down here in New Orleans, and I'm heading up to Edmonton, Canada. And you can see on my left, that's 2,458 miles. It would take me 38 hours and 28 minutes to do it if I was just running a straight run. And then up top there are some filters, and I'll explain a little bit more about those in a minute. When I start a process like this, I immediately input the things that I know I want to do. So I know I want to go to Crazy Horse Memorial, because I'm very excited about going to the Badlands. And that's going to, as you see, completely reroute my trip. Now, I also want to go to Banff, which is a national park in Canada. Now, that didn't reroute me on my way up to Edmonton, other than I'm going to have to, head off here to the west to get to Banff off of my main path to get up to Edmonton, where I end my trip. Okay, so I've got two big beats, if you will, of things that I'm going to be doing. I know directionally what I want to have as my path. And here's where my next set of planning is very much based on how we like to travel. I don't want to be in the car more than 5.5 hours a day. Unless I had to do long haul trips, 12 hours a day, of course we can do that, but I don't want to if I don't have to. So let's say I'm going to now start trying to figure out where would good stopping points be. So let me just put in Shreveport. Now, it's not because I'm going to stay in Shreveport, but I'm trying to figure out directionally, is that going to be the length of time? Okay, from what should be New Orleans, but which is Marrero, Louisiana for some reason, to Shreveport is about 5 hours. So that's perfect. That's right in the window that I want. And then for my next stopping point, I'm just going to see where the Golden Driller, if I add that, if I click on it, I can click Add to Trip, come back over here. So that is going to be from Shreveport to the Golden Driller is 5 hours and 34 minutes. That's pretty close to where I want to be at. Now, here in Kansas, let's say, what's Salina? Let's add that and see if that's going to be a good waypoint. or roughly a waypoint. So that's going to be 3 hours and 50 minutes from the Golden Driller to Salina. Now, that's a little less than what I would normally like to drive, but that's okay because I would like to leave myself a little cushion to go do a little bit of sightseeing. So when I get up in the morning, maybe I'm going to go over to the Blue Whale of Catoosa before I head up to Salina or thereabouts. And then from Salina, let's see, to Crazy Horse is still 10 hours, so I need something that's going to be in between. Let's try something like North Platte. And that is going to be, let's see, yeah, 4 hours and 47. So you can see I've just put some waypoints on my journey that are roughly the amounts of time that I like to travel. I'm not going to stay necessarily in North Platte, but what this does is it allows me to start taking the next steps of my planning process, which is to go look at some websites that I like to use. So the two that I use most often are Harvest Hosts and HipCamp. But I would also include here Reserve America for state and national parks, as well as Campendium. So on Harvest Hosts, I'm going to put in the first destination that I had identified, so Shreveport. Well, actually, before I even do that, why don't I use the different filters that Roadtrippers offers? So places to camp. Lots of great places to camp. Now, I will say, that's Baton Rouge, so that means we need to be up here. There we go. So that Shreveport's my first waypoint. Michael and I don't like to stay at RV parks as a general rule. State parks, national parks, someone's land. BLM, which is Bureau of Land Management, that's boondocking, love to do that. And so I'm not seeing anything right off the top of off the bat that would kind of fit the criteria we like. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to put in Shreveport, Louisiana. You can see I've already done this search. And okay, there's some places somewhere around here. Let's look at ODK Farm. Now, the first thing I'll do is I'll look at the criteria. Okay, they have, up to 45 feet. I know that my rig can handle that. Before I click check availability, I might look at the photos, but I'm also going to take Frierson, Louisiana. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put that into, I'm going to remove that filter and add a waypoint. Let's see where Frierson, Louisiana is, because I don't want to get something that's super off my path. Okay, that's not bad. So then I'm going to come back over here to Harvest Hosts. I'm going to go to this particular farm and I'm going to click check availability and I'm going to go through that process with the owner. At this point, I'm also going to bring up my note and I'm going to say, okay, my destination is going to be Frierson, Louisiana. I think the duration was 4.5 hours. Possible place to stay. Now, I always note which platform I'm using. Harvest Host, ODK Farm. Waiting for confirmation. All right, so I have my first day sorted. But I'm going to come back to this. Now, this is how I like to use Roadtrippers, and this is going to become a little more clear as we go. I don't need to stay in Shreveport. I don't particularly need to visit anything in Shreveport, so I'm actually going to delete this off the map. I'm going to remove the waypoint completely. And what that does is it recalculates some of the information. So I know it's 4 hours and 51 minutes to Frierson, and now it's 5 hours and 57 minutes to the Golden Driller. That tells me that when I'm up here looking for places to stay, I'm probably going to want to find something a little more south of this spot, because it would be a slightly shorter day. That's really right at the outer limit of the number of hours I like to drive. So let's go back over to Harvest Hosts. And again, I really like Harvest Hosts because it allows you to support small businesses. If the destination has like a farm stand or a winery or something like that, that gives you an opportunity to spend $30, buy something from them. It just it's good karma. So I'm going to look at this Honey Creek Farm. This looks like a lavender farm. I'm liking this a lot, up to 40 feet. Okay, max nights 1, parking spaces 2, perfect. So again, before I check availability, I'm going to grab Mounds, Oklahoma. I'm going to go back to Road Trippers. I'm going to add this waypoint. I think this is going to be a little more south to the Golden Driller. It is. That's perfect. So now from Frierson to to Mounds, Oklahoma is 5 hours 36. I like that. That's better. So I am going to go back to close that one, go back to the Honey Creek Farm, and I'm going to do the check availability. I'm going to update my note, and that's going to be, let me just grab this. I'm going to copy it to make my life a little bit easier. Mound, Oklahoma. I think that's 5.5 hours. And this is Harvest Host, Honey Creek Farm. Okay, so I have very quickly been able to identify 2 places on my map that are legitimate places I might want to stay, and I'm just going to kind of work my way up. Now, a couple of things that I like to do on Road Trippers. So, Golden Driller. The question is this something I want to see? So, like with Shreveport, I could take it off the map altogether, which is this click here. I could remove the waypoint. But let's imagine I actually wanted to see that. Now, I don't need it to be a waypoint on the map. I prefer to have my waypoints be places I'm staying that night. So I can remove it as a waypoint, but still leave it as a reference point. So as I'm thinking about my day when I get up in the morning, if I really just want to get up and go, I know I'll check my calculation here. From Mounds to Salina is going to be 4 hours 7. Yeah, I have a little bit extra time, so I'll go see the Golden Driller. And when I'm heading up to Salina, I can decide exact same process. Maybe I'm going to look at this time at Hip Camp. I'm going to put in Salina, Kansas. This one requires you to put in dates. Let's see if we do a search. So great. Again, here's where Salina is. Depending on my calculation of time being in the car, maybe I want something a little south of that. And then I would be able to narrow down my choices. When I come back here, I want to show you one more thing. And I'm going to do it, let's do it up here. So this is the Crazy Horse Mountain Memorial. I'm going to actually spend several days camping here. The other destinations on my map right now are places I'm going to in order to get here. And so I always tell people, think about the difference between sleeping in the camper versus camping. This is where I'm going to do my real camping. And very much like the process I just described, I'm going to start looking for some interesting things to do. And I'm just going to add them to the trip for right now, because these are all things that I'd like to try out. I can also come over here to sites and attractions and look at this filter. It's going to load additional things that might be interesting. The Sundance Kid jailed here, let's do that. And so these things are all opportunities for me to go camping, do some hiking, and drive around and see some cool stuff. But again, I don't really want my map to look like this because this is a hot mess. So what I'm going to do is, let's say that, for the sake of argument, Crazy Horse Mountain Memorial is actually where I'm camping. And so, like I did earlier, I'm going to pull these off as waypoints, but I'm going to leave them on the map as how I might be visiting different locations. And so that last jog that this did was really important because it completely changed the calculation of how much time I'm going to be the day I finally leave this campground to my next destination. So, and I don't want all these other waypoints to affect that calculation, with one possible exception. So let's imagine that from 4 to 5 was only going to be a couple of hours, say 2 hours. I might choose to put the Badlands National Park as a waypoint because I'm actually going to drive there first before I go to Crazy Horse. Now, when I look at what that did, now I have to go up to Rapid City and then down to Crazy Horse. Maybe I don't want to do that. But that's the only time when I would add something which is, a sightseeing spot as an actual waypoint, because it would allow me to calculate my time driving to get to the campground a little bit more accurately. So those are the major points on how I'm using my browser as well as Apple Notes. Now let's go back to front of camera so I can share a little more information with you. Okay, hopefully that made sense. Just do a quick summary here. I'm only using 2 applications in this process. I'm using my browser, which for me is Safari, and I'm using Apple Notes. And in my browser, I'm opening up several tabs. The first is Roadtrippers, and then the others are designed to help me find a place to stay. So that's going to be, for me anyway, it's going to be Harvest Host, Hip Camp, Campendium, and I would probably have Reserve America open as well. What I'm not covering here is that in my note where I have the itinerary, that's a note in a folder. So when I create a new trip, I actually set up a new folder inside of Apple Notes, and the first thing I put in there is the itinerary. But the second thing I put in there is my list of things to bring. So let me know if that might be interesting to cover off on. Just put a comment below, because I feel like that has saved me any number of times from getting out on the road only to discover I left something behind that was really important. I mean, I've had the situation, this was before my master list, where we get out on the road and I'm like, didn't you put the camp chairs into the camper? Yeah, bad moment. Not good for the relationship. So let me know if that might be interesting. And then the other thing that I do that I'm not really covering here is I'm trying to discover really interesting historical places that I might like to see. So for example, I'm very interested in Native American history in the United States, or North America more broadly. And I don't feel like that is something I learned particularly well in school. And so let's say I was going on a really big road trip around the country. I would probably Google, most important Native American historical sites in North America or the United States if I wanted to be more specific. And then even without knowing what that might look like from a trip perspective, I'll just throw those into Roadtrippers and I'll see where they are. Like I might discover, wow, there's a cluster of really important sites that I'd love to visit in Utah. And so maybe I'll create a Utah trip as opposed to all the other things that I wanted to try to do. I mean, when I was first creating this trip to go to Edmonton, I wasn't thinking so much about anything other than wanting to see the 2 places I put on my road trippers right away, which was really wanted to go to the Badlands and see Crazy Horse Memorial, and I wanted to go to the Banff National Park. So in some ways, I really built the trip around those 2 destinations. Coming back, I still need to work out an itinerary with Michael. I'll probably do a quick video just to share what we landed on. But I was hoping to do the Utah Big 5. That's not going to happen. But that's another way you might search. What are the most important national parks in the United States? Or what are the least visited national parks in the United States? That would be another interesting way to go about it. And that helps me kind of flush out some trips. I'm kind of at a point now where I don't necessarily need to even have a destination. So that can mean I can craft some really fun and interesting options to get out there and get camping. So let me know if you'd be interested in seeing any other additional content around the planning. And I hope y'all get out there and get camping soon. It is so much fun, and maybe we'll even see you out on the road. Take care.